that an outdoor aquatic facility will have on a community is unbelievably family friendly and fun. And it's a destination point, Mr. Coyne, but obviously unbelievably expensive. First of all, what direction would City Council and the administration recommend? Would we financially support a new aquatic facility? Maybe yes, maybe no. It probably just depends on the cost. Secondly, part of this equation, what did the Medina residents want? A lot of council felt strongly about an outdoor facility because that's really kind of the rock or the signature of a community. To have an outdoor facility and the memories that are created are just fantastic. And so I think we really contemplated that, and I feel that's kind of why we're here tonight. You know, what do the residents want? And so should any consideration be granted to our Medina neighbors who live in the townships but make use of the Medina City school system? Would they like an outdoor public aquatic facility with slides and zero depth entry and water play features? And where we could learn to swim can be taught outside again? In September of 2012, the administration presented the pool study. It was a 25-page document. It basically outlined the depressing circumstances of the pool and the pool house. And I do want to tell this meeting tonight that the other reason for closing the pool is because of the accessibility issues. We're currently the rules changed in last year, March 2012. And so now they're being enforced this year that cities or pools are going to have to be in compliance with the ADA regulations. And that's not only gaining access to the pool through either a lift or a ramp or zero depth, but it's also the pool house. And so major modifications and expenses would be incurred by the city to make those corrections. And so that's where we really weighed the benefits of putting that type of money into the pool. So I just wanted to make that, it was kind of a twofold situation with the pool. Okay, so then when we met, we determined it was best to close the pool and to discuss in the future what we currently wanted to do with this pool. So some of the questions, I'll just recap. Should a new pool or splash pad be constructed at the same location? What about the recreation center? Should an outdoor aquatics facility be constructed on site for potential cost savings? And then also, what should we build? Where should we build it? How much will it cost? How long will it take to construct? Whatever we may conclude, we have to ask ourselves, will it depict an accurate picture of the community needs? Regardless of the final option chosen, the current facility is not meeting the needs of the community. So where we are today, what has been established so far, in December of last year, an in-house community survey was proposed. But it was rejected or dismissed because it was determined that it would be statistically invalid. Apparently the Parks Director does not make sense statistically speaking. No, but really we learned from Nicole Musgrave from the Planning Department. We had kind of started formulating some questions to ask the community, and she kind of reeled us back in, the mayor and myself, to kind of say, hey, you want to really think about this study, because just by asking a question, just the way you word it, it could be biased and you're going to skew the results. And that was really kind of an interesting learning lesson for us, because you think you're asking a good question, but she's like, no, that's not a good question. So kind of where we're at today, and I'm not sure if the mayor wants to speak on this as well, but I believe we should look at hiring a firm to answer these questions. You know, because this is such a big investment. The last time the city of Medina had to contemplate a pool, you know, was back when they first built this in the 50s, and then again in the 70s when they did the addition. And so here we are again, looking at Medina as a destination city, and you know, I have to think that when we make an investment into the city, it's for the long term, it's for the bigger picture. This is a bigger picture item, a costly one, but I think when we invested in the parking garage, the parking deck for the downtown, with the courthouse there, we really made a statement. You know, at first I thought that was odd. That was a different type of investment that the city was making. But I felt you know, I didn't see the big picture until council explained it and the administration, and then you see the county came in here and we collaborated and the library helped out with that. This is a community that supported the parking garage to keep the downtown vibrant. In same respect, I feel that an outdoor aquatic facility should be considered. I'm not saying today that we can afford it, but I think we should allow the residents to tell us maybe perhaps if we need an outdoor pool and perhaps if they can fund it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you, Tim.
I did want to say, Mr. Shields, I did answer a couple questions from Wadsworth. Last time you had asked me about the Wadsworth outdoor pool. You know, what was the cost of that one? Is it currently proposed? Well, I spoke to Maureen, who's running the Y out there, and she said it is currently out to bid and it'll open this month. And the budget she's estimating is about $2 or $3 million. And I'm not sure what that'll get us, but I'll take a look at that. So the city of Wadsworth is building, in addition to those indoor facilities, they have 3 indoor facilities. They're gonna also build this outdoor facility.
At the rec center high school
Yeah,
complex.
correct.
Aren't they being privately run though?
The Y is running the rec center, and they will also run this pool. That's correct. But I believe the way the city of Wadsworth paid for that was through a bond issue. You know, for the school, it was $17 million rec center complex. It included the YMCA, a senior center, the Wadsworth TV access channel, and then the Summa Hospital. Those were all partners in that facility. Mr. Rose had asked for some pool statistics for municipal pool, and I brought a copy of those, but I would really like to email that document. It was pretty long and lengthy because we keep track since 2002. So we have 10 years of data, but that was a pretty big file. So I'll work on that and get all of council kind of the statistics of the outdoor pool. Some of them are telling. Some of them, you know, it could be misleading, you know, based on the revenue or the expenses. The condition of the pool, you see the revenue dropping, you know, attendance dropped. The kind of repairs that were necessary, we didn't always perform those because it had bigger implications. But, you know, slowly but surely this pool, it was the right thing to do to close it. And again, I think the right thing to do is just determine what the future holds for an outdoor facility. And that's kind of what we're bringing to you today.
Okay. Mary, did you have something now? Or?
What, if you have questions, I guess. I directed Mike to take a look at that patio area that's pretty unused next to the rec center, thinking that the advantage would be not that we're locked into the current location, but the lifeguard sharing, the chemicals being at one location, the chemical testing of the pool itself. There are some efficiencies that we could do there. When Mr. Coyne mentioned it, I asked Mike to do a little bit of research on that, the one up in Brooklyn there, because I thought if we could have the advantage, even if the roof was stationary, but the doors could be open to where you had outside air, you could have the benefit of an outdoor pool, then close it in the winter and have an advantage when we have the pool, the swim teams, and other things going on, because we do get complaints that there's not enough pool time during certain hours. So that was kind of the thought pattern, to have some comparisons of off-site versus a current site that seems available. We would have to engage in some discussions with the school to see if they're willing to, if we don't have enough land, are they willing to give us what we need to make that happen? We're not that far yet, but we're just looking at some alternatives.
Yeah, I was trying to get organized for this meeting, and I'm going to just list my questions here that I guess I'd like to figure out today. One, I want to figure out if the city should be in the outdoor pool business anymore. I think it's the time to ask that question, since we're not going to be operating the pool this summer. If we decide we are going to stay in the outdoor pool business, is it at the same location or is it a new location? Does it make sense to move it somewhere or keep it where it is? If, once we figure out the location, is it the same configuration we have now of just the pool, or do we turn it into an aquatic center? This is a big question. No matter what we do, if we stay in the business of an outdoor pool or aquatic center, how do we pay for it? And then the other thing I really want to focus on today is what we do this summer for the residents who aren't going to get to come to our memorial pool who count on some kind of recreation outlet with a pool in the summer. And that's where I'm glad you're here, Mike, because I want to talk to you a little bit about what our options are with our existing pool and residents who normally would just go to the outdoor pool in the summer, so.
But actually, if you like, we can start, unless you want to do something first. I've asked Mike to take a look at that, because I know we're gonna have to find an alternative for the children that were using the outdoor pool. So I've asked Mike to do some research on what it would take for us to use the rec center pools or the rec center as a whole, to charge a reduced rate for those that are on the lunch program.
The free and reduced lunch?
Yes, sir. And I know Mike has done, has some information on that, and I guess that's more of a council decision of, are we talking about opening up the entire facility at a reduced rate versus just the pool facility to give them the same opportunity, albeit inside that they had outside. And that's really just a philosophical, difference. It's easier for us to manage, control, and staff if it's limited to just the pools than it is an influx throughout the whole center.
I know we have several residents here too, and I'm certainly interested in what anybody has to say. Does anybody want to weigh in right now on what their thoughts are on these questions about whether we stay with an outdoor pool? And Anitra?
Hey, yeah, Jim. When Tim mentioned memories, my memories of the outdoor pool, Memorial Park pool, go back to the 60s and the 70s. When we first moved to Medina, I was involved as a water safety instructor with a wonderful group of volunteers. And at that point, we had a swim program, Learn to Swim program with the Red Cross that encompassed hundreds and hundreds of children. And our purpose was to teach water safety, to teach children to be safe in the water and on the water. And as our students went through the program, they became water safety aides, came back and helped us in the summertime. They went on with junior life saving, senior life saving. We had them go off to college and come back as water safety instructors. And so for me, the memories, many, many years ago are still with me. I love to swim. I've always been a swimmer. I swam in high school through college. I'm now swimming for the Medina Masters. And I was advisor to the high school team before there was a pool, and they had to go other places. So I hope that the city can build an outdoor pool and able to maintain it. And when the 50-meter, when Mike mentioned that, then my ears perked up, because this is my opinion, I would like to see a 50-meter pool that's a regulation pool. Forget the slides, forget all the extra things that go with it, and I really think that that would be a possibility for the MACOs, for the rec center swim team, the high school swim team, the Masters swim team. I think there would be real possibilities in a regulation 50-meter outdoor pool. And another thing that I was concerned about was the accessibility for people that can't afford perhaps to belong to the rec center, that an outdoor pool would be something that families could manage. And then also the location would be good. I think Memorial Park Pool is a good spot, but I think the rec center would be even better, that children could walk to it, ride bicycles, and it would be open to everybody in the city.
Thank you. Virginia, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I was, as far as the summer is concerned, and that was what you were talking about, right, Tim? I have brainstormed with the mayor a little bit about this, really making that our rec center as open as we can to the children of the community this summer, because this is going, we know it, there's going to be at least one summer that we're not going to have an outdoor facility. There may be another summer, in all likelihood, that it will be. So I think we need short range planning, long range planning, but if we could have that pool accessible as reasonable as we possibly could, and it will take more maintenance, it'll take more everything, because if we have heavier use, that's the way it is. But I've also brainstormed with the mayor a little bit about adding other recreational things that we could do in the field house or in the parks. Recently, there was an article about jump roping, having jump roping classes and teams, and which would be very accessible and using one of the courts in the field house. And also running, that there was an article in the paper about Summit County where they are providing, they have by age groups and by sexes, girls running teams in different age groups and boys. And I think there's a lot of possibilities that we could do with our rec program that wouldn't be overly costly, because we have lots of teams that are involved in cross-country and love to run, and I'm sure it would take coordination to be able to do some of these things, but I think it would be doable for this summer.
Mrs. Yowler or Mrs. Smith are both here too.
I was just gonna say, briefly, that I thought that the pool always brought a lot of memories to a lot of people growing up, and I still have friends that I went to school with, that when they come back to Medina every year, they still take their kids to the pool. It's like one of the first places they go to when they come back to Medina. And being that we had, well, I do see now the big picture too, with maybe having it at the rec center, but I thought with the building of the new pavilion at Memorial Park, that might have been a good thing too, because a lot of families that might want to have a family reunion, it's more privatized if they have it right there, like at the new pavilion, then they could swim too.
And obviously with Jump Park there as well, it complements each other well at that location. Mrs. Smith, did you want to?
I can't imagine a city of our size with our wealth not having an outside pool. It's incomprehensible. I mean, everybody has a pool.
Well, the reason I wanted to get some public input here too, because I've gotten some emails and things, and it's very important to me. I've got a connection through the J.C.'s, because it was the J.C.'s first project here in Medina was to raise the funds to build that pool. And yeah, it was, when they were formed in 1962, their first fundraising project was to raise the funds to build the pool. And I would very much like to still have an outdoor pool. I know it's not the most, it is not the most efficient project in the world, because you don't get to use it all year, but I think it's important. I think the population that uses it, the emails that I've received is, please don't take that away from those residents that get to use this, and they're usually not the residents that can afford a country club or private membership or even a rec center membership. So I'm very much in favor of having an outdoor pool still. I like the location where it's at, but I could be talked into another location that at least is still accessible for students and the population that we serve at the pool. I would like to see more families be able to use our pool. So I'll start there. I'll open it up to the rest of you guys as far as your thoughts, so we can start moving forward on what direction to get in with this. And Mike, I do want to, I saw your hand go up there, I do want you to weigh in a little bit about what the possibility is of accommodating something for this summer at the rec center then too.
Absolutely, if you want me to get in now.
Sure. Go ahead.
We already accommodate, we tried, the PAL organization, we allow pool time all year, all summer, and even court time and everything else, so anything we can do to help is what we'll do. With the lunch program, if we even include the families as we do with the memberships 2 years ago, the whole family's included in that lunch program and get the 50% off the rate. That would be cheaper than their yearly rate at the pool if they had the, you know, the summer membership, 50% off lunch program. It is a distance though, and that's the thing, they have to make the travel. And then the other thing would be, you know, we have a couple things we'd have to overcome obstacles-wise, which would be one, policing only use of the pool. That's hard to do. So it probably entitle using more of the rec center, not just the pools. We already ban now the kids that are 7 and under, so it's not an issue to put a ban on you know, a kid that comes in and wants to use just the pool. But our ages are different too. 12 and under cannot be in the building without a parent. You know, some of the kids at the outdoor pool get dropped off and they're there the whole day. That can't happen. It's going to have to be with a parent at 12, you know, unless they're 12 and over. So there's just a couple things we'd have to look at, but yeah, we have no problem with working with the lunch program or working on some kind of deal with day pass, where day pass is half off. Right now we charge $7 for a day pass. Day pass can be $3.50 for the summer.
Tim, what was the day pass for a student this summer, or this past summer at the pool?
Okay, last year we lowered it at the end of the, you know, for the 2012 season. And so what we did is that we restructured it so that ages 5 to 59, it was $3. Children 4 and under was free, and senior citizens were free. And then we had some, the resident family pass up to 5 members was $100 for, and then $150 for non-resident.
Okay, so we're not too far off with the 50% at $3.50.
Yeah.
Right,
versus
that would be
$3.
the full use of the rec center. And then, of course, we could also design hours, say, okay, between 12 and 5, or between 12 and 7, you know, on the weekend, these hours during the weekdays, and specify when you can use the pools, and that might help justify the day passes.
Danny?
Well, first of all, I agree with Jim. I mean, I'm 110% in favor of the pool. I would like to see it done sooner than later, and the big question is going to be the funding, depending whether, you know, whether it be at the rec center or at its current location. I know for the administration and council members, we know it's never going to pay for itself, no matter what we put in there, nor does our parks, any of our parks. It's for the community's enjoyment. The difference with the parks is it does get quite a bit of support from you know, taxation. The pools can be something different. So I think the big hurdle is going to be funding, whether we approach, you know, different foundations, some way to raise money. I know there's council members that probably wouldn't be in favor of you know, putting a bond issue on. I personally would like to see, if we're going to do a pool, make it an aquatic center. Right now, I think because in the last 15, 20 years, the shape of the locker rooms and restrooms is less than desirable. I think if we did build an aquatic center and have a modern, up-to-date facility, I kind of agree with Jim. I would like to see it in the same location, but I understand what the mayor's saying, that cost-wise, you know, cost savings, it might be more economical to put it at the current rec center if we can get agreement, which I'm sure we could with the schools. I just feel it's such an important thing, and I'm old enough that I can go the rest of the folks here that talked about memories, but I think if we did it and we do it right, we're going to increase the usage. Forget about the outside residents, but our own. I mean, I'm not saying forget about them, but I'm saying I'm not worried about the outside residents, but our residents. I think the usage would increase dramatically, because in the 60s and 70s, it was a popular place to go. During the day, it was, you know, a lot of kids. During the late afternoon and evening, it was kids and adults too. So I think if it's done right, a larger section of the community could utilize it. When you talked about the regulations at the rec center, I mean, I think that's a great idea, and I'm glad the mayor instructed you to you know, try to work, see how we can accommodate these kids this summer, and as Virginia said, maybe next summer if it's not completed. There is going to be a problem, because a lot of the kids that use the pool in the last 10 years are not there with their families. There's a qualification, they had to know how to swim, but, they were dropped off or rode their bikes there, and they weren't with their families. So that regulation is probably gonna limit the population that has used it for the last several years, to use the rec center. It's gonna be better for them than nothing if they can, encourage an adult to come with them, their parents or a sitter or something. But yeah, I'm 100% in favor. The only question we're gonna have, where all the administration and council, is how we're gonna fund it. That's gonna be the big question. But I hope we can work on this and get it done sooner than later. And maybe we can come up with, and I'm not opposed to actually going to the residents. I understand the surveys. I understand exactly what you're saying is, you could be biased in asking the question. But I think that you would probably gather a lot of support from the community if we would decide to go for a bond issue or something too.
I agree with that.
I'm not sure about the bond issue, but personally, and then, this is, of course, just an opinion. We have a school issue, and I'm not sure voters separate.
I understand that.
I think there's just a lot of things going on in the community. On the long range, I'm with you too. I love the location where it is. If it works out somewhere else, okay. But it's in a beautiful, beautiful park now. But as far as feasibility, I've seen quite a few municipal pools, or aqua centers, or whatever they call them. And there are different levels. One of the advantages of hiring a professional would be to look at to give council an option of what level do you want to go with. Do you want to go with $1 million level, $2 million, or whatnot? For instance, if you go to Rocky River that I have seen, it's entirely different, or not entirely, but it's much more upgraded than the one at Oberlin. And the one at Oberlin is very, very nice, but it's not as expensive. I think there's just a lot of variables that we would probably benefit by having an outside professional look at.
That was kind of what I was agreeing with, because I think the investment for an outside firm, with the study that we did in September, I think our cost would be lower to do a survey, because we kind of labeled that as the fluff, but we did all that work, and I think if we got right to it, we could get the survey. An outside agency should be engaged to compose the survey questions, conduct the survey, and then analyze the results. And I think the expense for that will do two things. It'll tell us what the community wants, and then if the community would also fund it. And so there's no harm in finding out if the community would think about funding it through a bond or a levy. And so I think for the expense, I believe it would be under $10,000. The magnitude of this study could have far-reaching effects, because I'll be honest, when you start looking at Medina, there's not another aquatic facility around. And I think the next closest one as far as public is in Hinckley.
Yeah, Ledge Pool.
And so I think you would draw a lot from the community. And so collaborations and partnerships we're seeing just here in Wadsworth, 4 partners, the YMCA, the Senior Center, and the SUMA, the cable,
Right.
to help build this facility, or at least maybe help operate it. And I'm wondering, I like the location of the pool, but I'm open to a new location, and it could be the rec center, or it could be totally new. I kind of like a park setting. I feel that an outdoor park, aquatic facility, has a benefit to a park-like setting, just because of picnicking that I envisioned, the pavilion rentals, and I think that helps with the memories. This diagram, you guys may have seen this before, but I did want to address the 50-meter pool. This one is from Ohio. It was built down south in Ulrichsville. And this one was, I don't know, I think it's been open for a couple years. But what we liked about this one, I did talk to the Medina Makos, and specifically about Learn to Swim. It hits the zero depth, it has spray features, and it has slides for the older kids and younger kids. But then right here, that rectangle, it's the right edge of the paper. That's a 50-meter pool where you can conduct outdoor meets or the Learn to Swim. And so you could gauge that so the public's not there when you do your swim lessons, and just rope that off, and you can still do your outdoor swimming there, which was I think it's an important anchor of the community to, you know, teach life-saving skills to persons, because you're always using that. I know I'm the youngest of 6, and you know, I was in the bathtub, and next thing I know, I'm in the Pine Lake.
Your siblings are
just,
trying to
yeah,
drown you, yeah.
you know, because I had to go with mom and dad and the rest of the kids, and you know, no child left behind. It's like you learn to swim, but I think they taught me. I remember those swim lessons, you know, and the confidence of going into Boy Scouts and then taking life-saving skills and all that. I do. I just feel like indoor pools are awesome, but a community that can have an outdoor pool, even though it's open for 80, 85 days, I realize that's probably a losing proposition. Today, the surveys, the companies also project, if we're going to talk about expenditures, they also talk about revenues or projected revenues. And I know you guys are familiar with that, with the rec center, but you know, I can't help thinking back in 1996 when we conducted the last recreation survey. That was a huge one. You know, the two things that the community wanted at that time, we've met a lot of those needs, an indoor pool, but they wanted trails, and then they wanted like a youth complex. And so I just wonder if, while we're contemplating this pool and the expenses and the impact and the draw it'll have on the community, the reason I mentioned our neighbors is because the rec center is multi-jurisdictional. You know, it's the school district. And so you're getting into Medina and Montville and the townships. And I wonder if they would be interested in some sort of partnership, or if we're building something like this. I think the landscape of collaboration has really changed, and agencies are working better than ever and needing to. And I just wonder if that's something that we should look at as well. And that's why I feel like the need for a survey, we can put those questions or pose those questions to the firm and see if we couldn't get some answers, because I'll be honest, I don't know the answers, and I would be looking to the professionals to help us.
Well, and I'm all in favor of hiring somebody to. The only other question that I would want, if it's possible to answer, is, and I know they couldn't give a definitive answer, but if they're giving us, say, 4 different options
Yeah.
to go with, I think it'd be amongst the administration and council to decide whether it's going to be more beneficial to have it at the rec center, at Memorial Park, or some other location. And when you're talking other locations, unless we already own it, then you're adding costs. But and again, I know that no matter what we put, how big or how small, it's never going to be revenue neutral. You know, it's
correct.
never going to totally pay for itself. But maybe in the study with the administration in your direction, you can at least come back with some cost figures too of operations, because that's
Interesting, just from what I've read from other communities. Bowling Green, the city of Bowling Green is opening up, they just passed a levy, a bond issue. I have that article. But the one thing I wanted to say about why we're back down here today, and maybe we were hoping for more progress, and I just want to say that the clear direction must be established before the efficacy of the survey can truly be judged. And what that means is all these questions that we're asking tonight, they will help shape the type of survey that we pose. And I think that is very good, Mr. Simpson, what we want to get from all of us today. And maybe we have another meeting in a couple weeks, or we just do it via email. What are the questions we want to pose so that it can shape the type of survey we're asking? That seems to be really the issue if we're gonna engage in a professional company. Those are the things we need to answer.
Brian, you want to weigh in on where you're at?
Well, everybody already said what I wanted to say, so I'll keep it short. I've already made it very clear that I'm 100% behind some form of a pool. I'm open at looking at the existing location or new locations, as long as it doesn't get too far away from where it's at now, for reasons, I mean, the makeup of my ward, you know, we were talking earlier, I think conservative numbers, 30 to 40% of the people who use the pool come out of Ward 1. And there's nowhere for them to go now. And everybody keeps saying they can use the splash pad, but, you know, that's for the little kids. They, you know, you get 5, 6 years old, they wanna hang out with the big kids at the real pool. So, I wanna see a pool in some form, whether it's where it's at now, whether it's somewhere closer, somewhere the rec center, whatever. I would also like to pursue looking at the aquatic centers. I believe the last time we discussed this, there were some communities that built these larger aquatic centers. And I did some research on the internet and found a few that they're actually breaking even. It's not costing the city any money. Now, I know there's no guarantee that we would break even, but, you know, maybe we're closer to breaking even than, you know, what we've been in the past. And they're doing that because they're drawing more people, and obviously you need a destination to draw those people. I think it was Cuyahoga Falls that was drawing 55,000 people a year, and they're breaking even on their pool. So, and then the last thing is, we definitely need to figure something out for this summer and probably next summer to work something out for the people that were using that pool.
I could just read a short paragraph from this article from Bowling Green. This was February 27th last year. It says, BG asked voters to take the plunge for a new pool. In a city where 3 generations have grown up cooling off at a swimming pool at City Park, voters will decide March 6th whether they want to keep that tradition. If approved, the 20-year 0.6 mil bond issue would generate some $3.8 million to build a new outdoor aquatic facility in the same spot as the existing pool, which was built in 1963. The new pool would include lap lane as well as areas where swimmers walk into the pool, a splash pad, splash toys, slides, a new bathhouse, and a new filtration system. And I couldn't help but smile because it sounds exactly what we're looking for.
Pretty familiar.
And you know, they did this last year, and I went to the Oprah conference down in Columbus last month. It's the Ohio Parks and Recreation Association. And there are just hundreds of directors and park people down there, and there's just really good classes and sessions and collaborations. But ironically enough, I'm checking out, and I'm in line, and the person behind me had their coat on, and it said City of Bowling Green. And I had just read an article, I think it was either on my iPad or in the Parks and Rec Business magazine, that Bowling Green had built an outdoor aquatic facility. So I turned to her and she gave me her contact information. She's like, yeah, they voted on it, approved it, and it's being built right now. So I don't know what it looks like or how much they spent or what the details are, but I'll get those as well.
Yeah,
So
sounds like a good community to
Yeah.
study. Sounds very familiar.
yeah.
Paul or John, you want to weigh in as far as where you stand on things?
Well, again, I'm like Brian, nobody has said anything that I don't believe. I have many fond memories of pool when I was a kid, not here in Medina, but in the cities that I grew up in. And I know my kids have had some good memories too. We definitely need some sort of outdoor facility, and as cost efficient as we can make it, I'm all on board for that. One thing that I would like to consider is maybe get some corporate participation in any funding we do, because if we use the corporations, you know, I'll say Sandridge is the first one to come to mind. They've got a lot of people who live in the city. If we can keep those folks living here in the city with their corporate sponsorship, you know, we can, you know, bring it and they will come type mentality. And the aquatic center, I think that's the direction that we need to head in, not just pool. Because there's the aquatics facility is open to more people of varying skills, you know, and we can get some efficiencies there as well.
How about as far as some kind of plan for this summer,
This
with the rec
summer?
center?
We definitely have to provide something with the rec center, and whatever Mike and Tim can come up with that's best for, and the mayor, that's best for everybody, I'm in full support of that.
Or we can bus them to John's house.
Well, that was option 2.
Okay, Mr. Coyne?
Well, as you know, I thought a lot about this. I'm not opposed, I'll go with what the council wants to do, but I think this is a quality of life issue, and it's also an investment. And when you combine those two, I think you have to, and as large of an investment this is, if we're gonna keep it in the city, meaning either, I'm not really keen on keeping it where it is, because I think I'm not really keen on investing $2 million on a location, again, that you can only open up generally about 70 days a summer. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and it seems like it's not a wise allocation of taxpayers' dollars. What is wiser is going to the rec center and including it and incorporating it in somehow. I'm not convinced that you cannot have an indoor-outdoor pool. I'm not convinced that, you know, Brooklyn did it, maybe it was in the 90s, I believe. I think technologies have changed. I think we can still have an indoor-outdoor, use it in the winter for swim meets, use it in the summer, open it up, have zero depth. I think we could accomplish that. I would like to see what a study would show about what other communities have done, especially since we're in northern United States. This is not a place where you have pools all year round, except for indoor-outdoor pools. And I think that would be a great asset to the rec center, especially for the cost, because we're talking, I think I was talking to Mike, and it's about $500,000, a little over, to operate those pools that we have at the rec center. This will be, if it's just an outdoor pool alone, a couple $100,000 for operations. I mean, where are we coming up with that on a yearly basis? Again, you gotta figure out how you're gonna operate this pool. But if you do it in conjunction with the rec center, indoor, outdoor, use all year, I'm more comfortable with spending that kind of money, with that kind of a facility. I'm less comfortable spending a couple $1 million for a short-term part of the year kind of deal, because it just does not make financial sense. And how do you do that in a city? Sure, we have 5 years of good operating funds for the city, but you throw something like this in the mix, it's just like throwing a second judge into the mix. Where's that money coming from? And a second judge has more chance of making money than a pool.
Maybe we can
The other question.
I disagree with that.
We'll have a couple times where it's one over water, one not. Yeah.
The other question is, we really want to do an aquatic center. I mean, I think we have to think outside of the box. We have a lake, at Lake Medina. We have, you know, we should incorporate pools, restaurants. I mean, you could do something that has never been done. But it's a huge, you're talking a huge project, which would include private investment, which would include cooperation, you know, using with some parkland to have this accomplished. But, I mean, we have something that most communities don't have, again, is, you know, a 300-acre lake. That if you wanted to do an aquatic center, I would think that would be more beneficial to have something like that, where you can have people incorporate the lake features in with pool features, in with trail features, in with not only drawing people from the city of Medina or just a few of the townships, but from around Northeast Ohio to get there. I mean, that's, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, you have to think that big. Otherwise, my suggestion is go to the rec center and add another rec center somehow. I mean, you're going to two different levels. I truly believe keeping it where it is, sure, it's great, but we're not in the 60s or 70s. We can't afford that, I don't think. I don't know, we have to move to a different level.
Well, and Tim, one thing I do want to, you know, let's see what Bowling Green says as far as operating this new complex, as opposed to what they've done as far as an operating budget for their new complex, because it does sound so familiar to what we're facing here too. So.
And, you know, some of the things, I do like the big picture. I'm not sharing all of that today, just because I haven't talked to some of the other agencies as far as putting a levy out there. But I can't help but notice where Memorial Park is and then what it's next to and what's going on in this northeast section of the city. But you have Lake Medina, which will be opening up a brand new trail under construction this year. And it'll be from Route 18 connecting up to Granger and Weymouth and over to Reagan Park and into our park. Also, you have the Huffman Park right there is where all the mountain bike trails are. I see a golf course is really close, and this I don't know how many square miles it is. It's probably 2 square miles, maybe 4. You have the high school complex, and I'm looking to put a trail from the rec center to Bowman Lane, somewhere. I want to kind of go through school, and then it'll connect, go through Reagan Park, and then it'll connect to the new trail, so then you can go all the way down to yours truly from the rec center.
Right.
And so Memorial Pool is just right next door to that. And then across the street from the pool is Homestead, is the school. And I see those outdoor basketball courts that I looked at. There's some new surfacing out there. It's plastic, and I want to look at that. It's outdoor plastic. I've been talking to a lot of the associations. They would love to have like a 3-on-3 tournament in the summertime of basketball. This would be right across the street. And I agree that the Miss tournament, you know, you're bringing people in June from soccer. You know, I don't even know how many hundreds of people they're bringing in, but that would just be a kickoff to the summer season for a huge weekend for families to stay and be a destination spot. I know the farmers markets are competitive, but this would be a really nice anchor to have an aquatic facility. The location, I think we could easily determine where that's best suited because of the study. And what they do is with concentric rings, they find out where you're going to get your draw from. You know, so in a 2-mile radius, you're going to get 50% of your attendants are going to be within there. You know, as you go out further. So I think we have a lot to consider, and I think the investment for the study can really, if we're not able to do it right now, or at least it'll help us come up with a plan so we know what we can do.
Well, let me go through this. Here were my questions. Do we stay in the outdoor pool business? Sounds like 5 of us, at least that are here, believe we should stay in the outdoor pool business. The location, I've heard both spots. I know John threw in a 3rd location. I understand what he's saying about Lake Medina. What I don't like about Lake Medina, the whole point of this is to have this walking distance to whether it's Ward 1 or the central core city area. I'm willing to look at the current location, and I'm willing to look at the rec center because it might make some sense there, but I really am not looking to take it anywhere where the majority of the residents cannot walk to it, especially knowing the population that we serve. I think if we do it right in this aquatic center, there'll be plenty of people who can drive through it, but I don't want to lose sight of the people who have no option other than to walk to it in the summer.
I agree. With Route 71 and then Route 18, Lake Medina dumps there, they can walk right to the trail to the park to use the aquatic facility at Memorial, or the indoor pool at the rec center for that matter. This trail is really going to open up kind of the destination spot with Medina. And that's kind of the trails. We have a meeting coming up March 21st, not to get off topic, but the trails in Medina are a network that also we're wanting to bring the community together and get away from obesity and be more active and outdoors. And so the trails and this outdoor aquatic facility, I think somewhat are at the right time, you know, to at least look at them, that maybe we can put ourselves in a position in the future for a nice trail network system and an outdoor pool facility.
And Tim, one thing I know you got going on the basketball courts are across from the pool, but I did want to say, I don't want to get too far on that idea, because if we end up building an aquatic center where we're at and we need more parking, one of the things I thought about was parking where those tennis courts were, former tennis courts basketball. And I also thought after our Ward 2 meeting, it makes some sense to bring some parking closer to the soccer stadium.
Okay.
For all the events there,
that's right.
where we could share that parking with, across the street for this aquatic center, and then with the schools, and maybe there's a partnership there on a parking lot then.
Okay.
But that would be a nice, easy location.
And I said that because I knew you were interested in doing something with that before I heard this. And we could easily do that at Reagan, you know, or I would also do it at Sam Massey or Nicholas Park, because there's some nice open areas there that we could look into that.
Okay, so if we know we want to stay in the outdoor pool business, we've got 2 locations we want to start zeroing in on what makes more sense. We think it's an aquatic center as opposed to just an existing pool. And we need to figure out how to pay for it. Obviously, Bowling Green used a bond issue, but that's something, we talked about some private donors too, and I think there's some real possibilities there, knowing that originally this whole pool was paid for by the residents. So I think there are some, you know, you talked about partnerships over in Wadsworth. Those are some corporate, you know, dollars that we might be able to search out. And I think we all agree, at least 2 are here today, that we'd like you and Mike and the administration to come up with some kind of plan for this summer that we can offer the residents who normally would have used the outdoor pool, that they would have some kind of option with the pools at the rec center, or whether it's the whole rec center. And I'm assuming, Tim, when people sign up for the pool pass for the summer, we have their address?
When they purchase a pool pass, correct?
Yeah, that maybe we could send even a little postcard out saying to those families that signed up last year, just an FYI, here's some,
Yeah.
we could at least send out to them saying, here's this offer we're gonna have this summer with the pool being closed.
Carol was just mentioning that for daily passes.
Not daily, but
We don't have address.
Yeah, but at least
Okay.
the people who had bought passes for last year, I would like to somehow, whatever we decide we're gonna do this summer, kind of let them know. We'll obviously advertise and put it on the website and the newspapers, but it would be nice, maybe some of those ones who bought passes last year, that they'd get a postcard.
Okay, and as far as the rec center and accommodating users this summer, because the pool's closed, Mike briefly mentioned that to me today, and it does seem like you would have to use the entire complex. You know, it would be easier for the rec center to gain admittance for the whole use of the rec center. It's a little bit harder just to, you could maybe wristband them, but maybe they could take that off. But the reason I point that out is perhaps there's a membership to accommodate that at a reduced rate. I think Mike has a college membership for 3 months.
We have summer membership.
Summer membership, you know, maybe we look at that a little bit and just say, okay, the residents, you know, maybe you have to be in a particular ward, or we just say for 3 months this year, we're gonna do a reduced rate. And if you have further reductions with the school lunch program, we'll even give you a bigger reduction, so.
You know, Denny and then Paul too. Go ahead, Ben.
Mike, I just have a question for you. I know historically, your summertime use at the rec center decreases in the nice weather. And we did open this up before for summer passes. Is that gonna increase the need for staffing? I mean, potentially?
Absolutely, yeah, there's more people, more lifeguards, more chemicals that we get used with bathing loads, everything increases, and that's something we have to talk about too. When you talk about everybody else still paying $7 for a day pass to come out of the rec center, and then are we talking about only people qualified for the lunch program that get the 50% off? We take a summer membership, which is $88, you know, for the summer, and 50% off, that's what we said, it'd be less than a membership at the outdoor pool. To be a rec center member for $44 for a family is, I'm sorry, not $44 for a youth is really cheap.
And Mike, I don't know that it needs to be cheaper than what it already was at the pool this summer. I just want to have a comparable option for families. Yeah.
That's cool, we can look at that.
Paul, go ahead, did you?
I want to tie in a comment that Tim made with what John suggested with the outdoor facility at Lake Medina. Let's not lose track of that. That might be a good option. Utilizing the trails that you mentioned. If they take us from Lake Medina to the schools, they gotta go back, right? They don't just take us in one direction.
The problem with Lake Medina, I would agree, is it needs a beach, you know, for the lifeguards, and there's no beach there.
It also needs a heck of a lot of parking.
But-
which is out there.
And the residents on the other side have,
Well, we know
I would have some concerns
one area.
across.
Oh, okay, but let's.
But, I mean, those are just early, I would look at that. I have,
Okay, 'cause
That's true.
I'm looking at the.
We do have
really
one public
big
beach
picture.
that-
I'm looking at the really big picture, plus we do have the, you know, the county transportation that could help take some kids there too, but,
Okay.
you know, but the big thing is cost, keeping it affordable.
I
and
absolutely
efficient.
agree, this is a big decision, and we gotta think outside the box, and
Yeah,
I'm open.
and that was a nice box to think of.
It is. I just don't also want to have such a huge project that we get so many years out that we go year after year without something here too. I mean,
Bowling Green did 3 surveys to the community, and each time, 60% of the response was an outdoor pool. And there was even discussions of building an indoor pool because they didn't have one, and they still voted for this outdoor pool, so.
well, it sounds like we can get a lot of good information
Yeah.
from Bowling Green here. I think we need to get going on that. Yes, Al?
If it was built in the city though, does it bring in any income tax money for the city? As opposed to Lake Medina?
No, unless it was privately run, correct?
No, we tax
No, I
our own
mean-
employees, but,
Oh,
and in Lake Medina, we annex that, so that is in the city.
Yeah, that is.
Oh, that's right.
But, I mean, there's not enough income to
yeah, yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, no, I'm thinking even sales tax too, like if you sell refreshments and, you know.
You know, and baseball is currently looking at tournaments as well, Medina Youth Baseball. Last year, they started with the new fields opening up in the townships, has really allowed us to do things differently. And so there's end of the season tournaments, you know, you're talking July, right around the 4th of July, you're talking heat of the summertime. When you start looking at these things, that the possibilities, it really starts making sense, or at least making sense to really look at it. What is it? What could be out there?
Well, I guess before we wrap up, I just want to make sure, Mayor, Tim, Mike, you have enough information of where you're heading, at least short-term here, something for the summer, for this summer, including with the rec center for residents, and then starting to pursue whether talking to Bowling Green, getting a survey together, some of those things, maybe talk to them about what their process was, and then if we need to schedule another meeting within a few weeks to see what you've got, so we can keep moving forward. But I am most concerned that we have some kind of option for this summer, and I think we gotta get that in place fairly soon here and get it passed through council if it's gonna be a different fee schedule or something that we need to change around.
Okay, so a proposal for the pool closing, and then having a proposal for the members to come to the rec center, or potentially.
Yeah, and then whether you also need to bring something back to us for the cost of a survey,
Yes,
or,
that's-
you know, some of those things.
Yeah,
I just
I-
wanna make sure we get going on that too.
I would. I don't, I'll have to ask Patrick how I do that. I don't know if that's a board of control item or a council item or what, but I'll.
But I think talking to Bowling Green will give you some good ideas of how they started this whole process too, because you said they did a survey. They had
Yes.
3 surveys, and
Yeah.
it sounds like a lot of the things we need to do too, that let's not reinvent it here. Bowling Green can
Okay.
give us some good direction.
I hate to put a spin on this, but I'm just thinking, I wonder if the people on that side of town are gonna say everything's on this side of town. I mean, it doesn't matter to me,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that's something to think about too.
When you say that side of town, what part are you talking about?
The north
Like,
side, you
Ward
want-
4 and.
You're talking north versus south?
Yeah.
But we talked about that with the splash pad. That's why we picked Fred Greenwood Park, not only because most of the open space funds came from Ward 4, but it was to give them an option down at that end of town
Yeah.
too.
I'm just saying if, since the rec center already has a pool, they might say they're building another pool, although we already have that here at Memorial Park too, so.
And this is the first year we don't have that.
And I guess, though, if we build it at the rec center, it's probably gonna be because we have parking, there's some efficiencies of scale here putting it together, so that's why I'm willing to look at another location other than the,
Okay.
but, yeah, I know Brian's got another location he'd love to throw in there too, with the
Oh.
Pythian Sisters, but we don't own that, which adds cost to it.
I was thinking of the jazz district, you know, just. No, he left.
Larry Branstetter's been talking to me since I took office, and I know they built one up in Bay Village, Avon Lake. They opened a huge one there, and he just happened to, just off the cuff, usually if he's in a radius of Medina, he eats somewhere here, so he always stops over. But he told me, and I'd like to, maybe I'll invite him up to have a meeting with Tim and I, or Jim if you're available too, but he told me that of late, the direction, these are Branstetter Carroll, one of the primary owners, what they're building in outdoor aquatic facilities, they're being mandated to be revenue neutral. So I'd be interested to hear from him.
Oh, sure.
Are you doing that with volume? Are you doing that with price? Because obviously, price may be problematic for us. I can't imagine we're much different than others are. So maybe what they're doing it is, you know, the majority of the people are paying X, but there's still some
Subsidizing
concession
some, yeah.
for the ones on the lower income level. So I'd be interested to see, A, what they're doing with that. B, he was in their offices, I think, in Cincinnati, and they do a lot of work in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. And he was in the state legislature in Kentucky for a while. So he understands government processes. But I'd also be interested with all of what he's looked at, has he ever seen an outdoor facility that can be enclosed? Everybody keeps telling us they don't know about it, but at least have you studied it?
Right.
What are the limitations, you know, so we don't go through that same exercise if we're not. You know, he could maybe help us with that, so I'll reach out to him and see what we can do.
And you know, most of the indoor, outdoor facilities that you do see are at, like hotels, and it's just a small area that,
Right.
that enables them to make it indoor, outdoor, and in the wintertime, the outdoor's closed.
Yeah. They
But in
usually
the,
put like a little glass
yeah,
wall or
there's just,
something
yeah,
down,
and I've seen like 3 or 4 of them like that, but it's
Right.
it's
But they're
not
much
yearly.
smaller
It's,
pools.
yeah, it's
Yes.
not a year-round.
Correct.
Before we wrap up, you feel like you got at least enough answers to move forward here?
Yeah, absolutely. And,
Yes, sir.
you know, we will provide you with some answers as well.
Okay, and you let me know when we need to get back together to make some decisions, if we need it through public properties or through finance. But I'd like to keep it moving, and appreciate everybody being here. It's a great crowd. I'm sorry the press isn't here. That's probably my fault, because they're all writing their story about the teachers' union voting for their teachers' contract right now. They did pass it. But I wish some of them could have been here for the story, because this is a good meeting. So, all right, thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thank you.